So for this episode 5, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at now how do we interpret a confidence interval when we estimate a population mean. And again, you can go to this on your Art of Stat app. If you have to go way down at the bottom, it says Explore Coverage, and basically it'll help you to understand what for instance, a 95% confidence interval actually means. Okay, how it affects the width, and what also you can visualize with interviews for proportions or means. Now, when we have a confidence level of, let's say, 90%, all right, understand that what we're going to do is we're going to take samples, and in this case, I'm going to have you look right here. We're going to say, here's the population, it's bell-shaped. The population mean is 50, all right? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take samples of size 50, so again, just in this instance, the sample size is the same as the mean of the population. That isn't necessarily the case. But what we're going to do is we're going to do 10 samples of size 50 and done at random, and basically what each of these little colors down here means is each of these intervals right here, 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 all are samples. There are 9 samples there. Now you're asking, what about this one in red? Well, we'll talk about in a second. But basically, each of those samples was constructed from a sample of size 50 where the sample mean is the little box, and then the 2 little tails are your margin of error, okay? Your margin of error. Sorry about that, didn't write that very well. And as you'll see, for a 90% confidence interval, we're saying that if we take several samples of size 50 from the population, that approximately 90% of those intervals should contain the true population mean mu. And if you take a look at all the green intervals here, those intervals all do contain the true population mean of 50. That's what this line is right here. That's the population mean. And as you will see, 9 out of 10 do contain that population mean. The one that doesn't is right here. It does not contain the population means. Now, is it going to be exactly 90% all the time for a 90% constant? Well, no, but it should be relatively close. Okay? So now let's do this. Let's look at the next one. Let's take 100 samples this time of size 50, and it gets a little more clustered here. And you'll notice that for a 90% constant, well, in this case, 92% of the intervals contain the true population mean. In other words, 92 out of the 100 did, 8 of them did not, and they're shown in red. So again, for a 90% confidence interval, we would say if we would continue to take samples from the population of the same size over and over and over again, approximately 90% of those should contain the true population mean. And then let's do it now for 95%, I believe. I got to look here. Oh, at 99%, if you take a look here, same population mean of 50, same sample size, each sample is size 50, and I just got lucky on this one, but if for a 99% degree of confidence, you'll notice that 99 out of these 100 do contain the true population mean. Only one of them does not. Now again, I got pretty lucky. If I do it a couple more times, it could be 98%, it could be 97%. Maybe it's 100%, but it should be right around 99% of all those intervals of the same samples. They should cover the true population, should contain the true population mean. Now, I will also show you one thing. If you notice, if we increase that level of confidence from 90 to 99%, more intervals should contain the population mean. If you take a look, it looks like if we go ahead to the 99%, it looks like our intervals are wider on this one. And that's true. If we increase the level of confidence to make sure that more intervals contain the true population mean, the margin of error gets wider. In other words, your interval gets wider. Okay? So if I were to do this at an 80% level of confidence, then fewer would contain the true population mean, so our intervals would be narrower. And we'll talk about that in one of our examples. So how do we write our final conclusion then? Because once we have our interval, once we write our interval, we have to actually interpret what it means. And the correct way to do it is, and I left some blanks here because it's going to depend on your confidence level and your upper and lower limits. So we're going to say we are a certain percent confident, depending on your confidence level. So again, what'll go in here would be your confidence level. We don't say, so for instance, if we're doing a 95% confidence interval, then 95% would go in here. If we're doing a 90% confidence interval, then 90% would go in there. Now, we are blank percent confident that the interval from, this would be your lower confidence limit, this would be your upper confidence limit that you calculate, contains a true population mean. That word percent confident means that if done several times for the same sample size, approximately that percentage of intervals should contain the true population mean. We do not say, now these are the two incorrect ways, there's a certain percent chance that the true population mean falls in that interval. Because it either does or it doesn't. If you have one particular interval, either it does contain the population mean, which means a 100% chance, or it doesn't contain it, which is a 0% chance. So this is incorrect. And also, we don't want to say, certain people say a certain percentage of all sample means will fall between our two intervals. That's not right, because all we're doing is, we know either our sample mean does or doesn't fall between those intervals, just like the same as the previous incorrect one. So do not write it like this. Basically, when you write the interpretation, as long as you include the percent confident that you are, the limits, and tell me that it contains a true population mean, or when we do proportions, that would be okay. So that's the end of the notes now. Hopefully you understand stuff a little bit, and what we're going to do with the next 3 or 4 videos is look at examples.